All right, man. Thank you guys so much for being part of this, for listening. If you are here, I'll try not to say too much. This is Marcus Oglesby, and I'll introduce myself a little bit first. This is going to be a podcast about all the different things that I'm into, different things that I enjoy, as well as learning some new stuff, too. I want to have some people on that can teach me and everybody who's listening at the same time. Myself, I am a lot of different, I wear a lot of different hats in the entertainment business. I'd like to consider myself a singer, but I am with the band Creek Don't Rise. I'm a lead singer, harmonica player, guitar player. And for those who already know me, I'd like to tell you, please check us out at Creek Don't Rise Band on Facebook, creekdon'triseband.com as well. Get all of our dates and everything. This Thursday, I wanted to plug this show. I will be in Charleston, West Virginia at Fireside Lounge above Little India. For those who don't know, Roger Rubalis' songwriter stage. I'll be part of that. So come on out and check it out, man. It's a really nice listening room. And you guys can catch Creek Don't Rise dates all over the place. We've got a couple this weekend, and I can't even remember where they are. I'll have to look them up once we start talking. I want to get into my guest today because I'm really excited. This is not my first podcast, but it is the first podcast in a while, and it is my third podcast. This is Riding with Marcus, is the name of the podcast, and I did a couple of them. I named it because I used to do them in my car. I used to spend a lot of time. I still spend a lot of time on the road, and I'd start it and I'd just talk, be by myself. Just ramblings of a madman. I'm really excited now. I want to start having some guests. Today we are in the Oglesby podcast studio, and humble beginnings, man, but we're going to get this thing started. And I'm really excited about my guest today. My guest is not only somebody who, it means a lot to me, and has really been an influential aspect, good and bad. I'm not going to cut him too much slack. But good and bad, he's been such an influence on my life growing up. But this guy is also a multifaceted human being. We're not even going to get into, hit the tip of the iceberg and everything he's into. But he is also got an artistic streak. He's got a very technical streak. Got a very funny side with humor. And you're going to see that he's got a lot in common with me because he's my big brother. Welcome to the show, Mike Oglesby.
Hey, glad to be here.
And we'll point out it's Michael Oglesby II. We'll give a shout out to Big Mike, Big Dad. So this is Michael Oglesby II, and you are 2 years my senior.
That's correct.
2 years my senior, and we won't tell people how old we are right off the bat. But man, I'm really glad you're on the show with me. I'm really glad to be doing the show. He's helping me a lot with this because we're going to plug. One thing we want to talk about is Oglesby Photography.
Yeah.
And this is your photography page. And you can check him out on Facebook, Oglesby Photography, YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Oglesby and Oglesby Photography on YouTube. Instagram also, Oglesby Photography. And I want you to go look at it because it's developed into something that's just so eye-catching. And now we're going to do some projects and videos. But I want to talk about how you got in, because I call Mike a ribbon cutter. Mike loves to start some projects.
Right.
Don't you?
Yes. Right.
He's done everything. I'll name off a couple.
I have a lot of hobbies.
Yeah, he made knives from scratch. He didn't dig the ore out of the earth. But
I did make my own charcoal, though.
He made his own charcoal. He's made clothing apparel from fiberglass, I guess. So he's done a lot of things, but photography seems to be something that's really caught your heart. Yeah. Tell me, how'd you get into?
Those people that know me, that went to school with me, they realized that I was pretty artistic in school. Even going back to the bleached jean jacket days, it wasn't good enough to just bleach my jean jacket, right?
We took it to a whole other level.
I had to put my initial or my nickname Og on the jean jacket, and then we started bleaching shirts and using stencils. And then I went so far as to take a pair of those Puma shoes that were just completely white, and I embroidered.
Oh, I remember because Mom taught us to embroidery. And what did you write on those?
I embroidered my name on the inside of the shoe and on the outside in different colors. And then I used matching colored shoelaces in both of the shoes in different colors in the shoes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm no stranger to doing things a little bit different and don't care to
Experiment a little bit.
Right.
That's cool. And I remember you talking about bleaching those shirts.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that. We did cityscapes cut out of cardboard and put it down on the shirts. We had our own clothing line.
Right.
We just didn't know how to market it. Right. There wasn't a Facebook marketplace back then. So we have always created stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And not just in the, that kind of world, but you want to talk about music. Like I said, I'm a songwriter. But my first songs were those raps.
Right.
The Eminem posse, Mike and Mark. Mike was laying down the beats.
Yeah.
And I was flowing some original rhymes over top of it, man. So we've always, been artistic.
That's right.
But photography.
Yeah, man.
How did, what brought that about? Now, Grant, let's set the stage a little bit. We grew up. We've got a lot of pictures from our childhood, but not tons because it ain't the same as it is now.
Sure.
Back then you had a few Polaroids and you got more pictures than me because I was a second child. I guess they wasn't as excited.
Done with it.
Right? They were over it by the time I came along. But nowadays you have tons of pictures. We've got several. But all the pictures sucked, right? The equipment was horrible. The light, nobody knew how to take a picture. So what got you into the artistic side of photography?
I'll tell you too, man, photography used to be very expensive. It was cost prohibitive. And I think as we go and grow with technology and the cell phones getting better and things like that, the cameras on them, it's becoming something that everybody can get involved in and everybody can... And I think that attributes to the reason that Instagram is so popular, and it's a way to express yourself. I think the reason I've always been interested in photography. I'm professionally trained in photography and how to use the camera, but artistically I'm self-taught. So I had to start, just figuring out why things look good. What makes things look good? And there's certain aspects of art, whether you paint, you take pictures, draw, sketch, whatever it is. There are certain ratios that people go by. There's rules to photography. Sure. There's rules to art. There's things called the rule of thirds and
sounds like music, man. I mean, it's just saying there's rules to music, rules, to songwriting,
and those rules really lay down the reason. They're not really rules to follow because they're the rules. The rules are just basically explanations for why we think that looks good or why we think that sounds good. It's the explanation. This is why, because human beings like things on thirds. Human beings like seeing groups of three.
So it appeals to their tendencies. It appeals to their, their patterns that they like that appeal to them, right? I mean,
right.
So it maybe some type of endorphin or something is released when they see a certain color or a certain pattern.
That's right.
Okay.
You have complementary colors. You have colors such as teal and orange and red and green, and those colors just complement each other, and it brings about an emotion in humans, and that's why they're grouped together. That's why the explanation is there. But the real reason that I started getting into photography, I've got two wonderful kids, and they're playing a lot of sports.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah. And if you remember when we were kids, that was what Mom spent her money on, was film, so that she could document our sports career.
Yeah.
She paid to have those pictures produced, and so
he's
many.
He's forgotten the terminology.
Developed.
He couldn't even think what to call it.
Yeah, but nowadays film's cheap. But I got into it because of the kids. I wanted to document their sports career and the things that happen in their life, and it's one of those things, man. If you don't do it, you don't document, it's going to be gone, and you can't get it back.
And I think it's something. I go kind of deep here. I think it speaks to human nature itself.
Sure.
We want a legacy. You know, one thing about my music, I love having, you know, as long as this digital platforms exist, and you know, and it doesn't look like they're going away anytime soon, I'll live forever through my music. You know, my son, my grandkids, it'll keep going, and my music will still be there. And then when you take a photograph, it's one thing to take a picture, but it's another thing to take an artistic picture that moves people's emotion.
Sure.
And if you can move people's emotion, that's how you live forever. And I think it's something that all men and women want, is a legacy and something to last beyond their days on this earth, you know?
Right. And I've been blessed, and I've been fortunate to be able to shoot events for people. I've shot weddings. I've shot senior photos.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. You've turned this into a business. You're making some money, but you've got plans to grow it.
Yeah, and because I have so many hobbies, the time that I have to afford towards making this business venture truly successful is limited. So
sure.
I just I haven't really hung myself out there because I'm afraid that it will grow beyond my capability to be, proficient.
To keep quality and everything.
And keep quality control.
Sure.
And, but when I'm taking photographs of somebody's wedding, or I'm taking photographs of somebody's senior pictures, those pictures will be shown to their grandchildren after I'm gone.
Oh, yeah, man.
And, just the joy that I see in people's faces when they see the pictures for the first time, or the comments that they make when they're looking at their pictures and they start texting me and tell me how much they love them and how great they are and how much they appreciate my time for doing it for them. And I really deeply appreciate the opportunity that they give me just to express myself in their photographs, in their moment, their special day, during the weddings or whatever,
And I think any artist, anybody who does anything creative, at some point, the main payoff is the acknowledgement of others. It's someone else appreciating, from an artistic point of view, or just in any way, appreciating what you did. It's no different from a song or some comedy or acting. You want people to acknowledge that you put some effort, that this is above and beyond, that that it is going to last forever.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's I think if you're going to do something and do it well, you have to love it first, and it has to be pleasing to you in order for you to be proficient and perform at your highest.
In anything, right?
Yeah, in anything, and then. If somebody likes it beyond that, man, that's just the best feeling on the planet.
Icing on the cake, man.
Right.
I always said as I was doing stand-up comedy, I do what I thought was funny, and the reward is when people actually agree with me, and that's it's an involuntary response, right. And they're not faking it.
They can't help it.
If somebody bends over and slaps their knee out of sheer laughter, or they're actually physically crying,
right?
That is the reward. I mean, you have moved someone involuntarily to get a physical reaction, and so if you can actually do that with any kind of art. That's how you live forever. Now, one question I had, though, going back a little bit, because this is what people might want to understand, because cameras and technology is so good on iPhones and these Android phones.
Yes.
What makes a professional photographer these days? Right? Yeah, everybody thinks they're an Instagram genius.
Yeah.
But what makes the next level? What makes somebody willing to pay you?
Well, I tell you what, anybody is capable of taking a good picture at some point. And these cameras, the cameras on your phone, take unbelievable pictures. I think what makes a professional photographer is they can go into most situations, almost any situation, recognize the environment that they're in, and set the camera up in such a manner that the photograph is going to come out technically correct. And what I mean by that is the color balance is going to be correct, the exposure is going to be correct, and even, the phones are getting really good to where they can, have a high dynamic range, and right. Dynamic range is basically the difference between the brightest parts of the picture and the darkest parts of the picture. That's called dynamic range. The cameras, the cell phones are getting a lot better at that, balancing that out. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing, one of the bigger things that makes a professional photographer professional and makes their images stand out is not being lazy. And what I mean by that is going that extra mile to set the composition of the scene up and recognize distracting elements and also introducing light. That's one of the things that you cannot do really today with a cell phone, is introduce light artificially into a scene in order to bring about the proper exposure and a pleasing image.
Right.
Now, you can use the sun as a light source, and people can do that effectively, but you can't use a flash with a cell phone, and that's where you get into pictures that are just fantastic, phenomenal, when you can introduce light into the scene.
Right. So, no, I mean, obviously, you can go technically forever. If you were trying to tell somebody how to go from amateur cell phone, somebody that's got a decent eye, right?
Right.
Well, what would you tell them to do? Do they have to make a huge investment to get into, or is it just studying on YouTube? What do you do?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I did. Like I said, I had to learn how to take pictures and use a camera and the camera settings. And I was taught by a professional photographer how to take pictures, technically correct pictures.
Right.
The art stuff I had to learn on my own. So I did a lot of research online. I did YouTube, and I followed people on Instagram and Facebook, and I looked at their stuff, and then I started, learning and understanding the principles of what makes good art and what makes good photography. And then once you realize those rules and those principles, then you can start applying them to other professional photographers and seeing how they interpreted that and how they made their stuff look. And I think, knowing the rules and having skill always will trump having equipment. I didn't start out with a huge investment.
Right.
And I don't think anybody needs to start out with a huge investment. The investment is in your skill. The investment is in your knowledge of the camera settings, the environment, and how to put all of that together and make a good picture.
Safe to say, the more skill you get, the more equipment you're going to want.
Well, absolutely,
to do it better,
because
just like anything else,
your equipment's going to limit you. And if you get to the point where your equipment starts being the limiting factor of how good your pictures can be, then you're going to want to invest in your equipment.
Right. Yeah.
But even then, it's still, you can get into photography super cheap. A lot of people are doing natural light photography nowadays. A lot of people are doing cell phone photography only.
Right.
And they're making it. They're doing well.
And they market it as such. They tell
do.
people, hey, this is iPhone pictures, right?
That's right. That's right.
My Outdoors with Og, I plug my stuff, Outdoors with Og, on Facebook. I have hunting videos on there, all shot, edited, everything on the iPhone.
Right.
And while, it might drive a professional photographer crazy, people love it.
Yeah. It's about the content. It's about the story and telling the story. And that gets me back to, the reason that I started doing the photography thing, other than just the kids. I want to tell their story, but I also realized that it's an incredible outlet to tell your own stories about things and scenes that you see and interpret them. One of my favorite photographs that I took, and it wasn't a professional photograph. I took it with a cell phone and I put it on Instagram. It's been probably 4 or 5 years ago now, but it was a photograph that after I had came home from church, and I put the Bible down, and just naturally, the first thing that I did when I came in the house was I took my firearm off and I just laid it on top of the Bible and didn't really think anything about it. But as I was coming back through the house, the light was shining through the window and hitting the Bible and hitting that firearm sitting on top of the Bible. And, I'm a big Second Amendment's rights person.
Right.
And it told a story. It told a story about my beliefs, and it captured at least 2 elements of those beliefs in that photograph.
Nice. And you were able to capture that. And that kind of leads me to my next question. There's actually 2 questions. First question is, and you can say yes or no on this. Do you think that you can take somebody with a good eye and teach them the technical aspects? Yes or no?
Yes.
Second question, do you think you can take somebody with technical aspects and teach them to have a good eye?
Yes.
So you do think you can teach that artistic view? Because like you said, sometimes you see something and you say, oh my God, that's a perfect picture, which
correct.
Somebody else might not see that.
That's correct. But if they are knowledgeable to the point where they understand the rules, they can take technically correct pictures, and they can take pictures in such a manner that it fits into the rules of photography. And those pictures will be viewed by other people as being good.
Yeah.
Now, will they get the same emotional feeling, that gut feeling that, man, this is a banger. This one is going to be the one that people just respond to. They might not ever get that feeling.
But they might still be able to produce the picture.
They can still produce the picture.
Right. That makes sense. Is that they could actually still not at all. I mean, luck upon it, just to happen to catch the artistic side of it within the frame.
Right.
That they were concentrating on. So that does make sense. I
tell you, those folks though, the pitfall is those folks who don't have that artistic edge are confined to reproducing other artists' work.
Right.
They're confined to just the rules and trying to make what has been already done look beautiful. It's that person that has artistic freedom.
Cover band.
that subject, that person that has artistic freedom to break the rules on purpose and create something new. Those are the people that are going to excel at art. Yeah. Those are the Van Goghs. Those are, the people that have just created a whole different aspect.
Right. What do you I don't know, short term or long term, you answer. What do you want out of your photography, business wise, maybe? The money doesn't drive me, and I'm lucky that way. I have a regular job, and I think really what I want to do is, and through all aspects of my life, and that may be one of the reasons that I have so many hobbies is I'm always wanting to be challenged by something, and I'm always wanting to master an art, master a craft. Whether it be making knives or hunting, fishing, shooting, photography, sports. I've always wanted to reach an apex, right,
in that. Or at least go as far as I can. And, I'm starting to get a little bit older. You're a little bit older too.
Yeah.
2 years, right?
Hey, dude, I always say it's not a midlife crisis if it's the best time of your life. That's not a crisis. Just embrace it. Throw your arms around it and say, welcome home.
It's not the age, it's the mileage. It's the mileage.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, I mean, there's limiting factors. So when you start getting a little bit older, you can't bench press as much as you used to. You can't do the things that you used to be able to do.
But you know how to use pulleys and other ways to get that weight up. right. You figured it out.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the darkest times in my life was when I couldn't play college sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I was pretty good. I was the captain of all my teams, and I was a fairly good athlete, and I hurt my knee going into college. That my senior year in high school,
playing baseball.
I was playing baseball. It was in baseball season, but after practice, we were goofing off playing basketball.
Oh,
and I jumped, and as I jumped, I tore some cartilage loose in my knee.
Dang!
And we still had probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 games left. We had the sectional tournament, the regional tournament. I still batted 800 in the sectional tournament.
Nice.
We were projected to go to state championship that year, and we ran into a pitching wall, and we got beat by a team that we'd beat 3 or 4 times already that season, and we just had a bad game, lost the region. But when I could not play sports in college, I had surgery on that knee 2 weeks before fall football season started, and I was going to walk on at West Virginia Tech to play football, and I didn't do it, and I regretted that. But I didn't know how to deal with that, and I had to go through some soul searching and find something, that I could be good at.
And that's a tough time anyway, going away to college, that time of your life, trying to figure out, the rules of life.
Absolutely.
Being away from home and all that. So that's a weird time to be going through such a drastic change of losing something you love to do like that.
But I found something, man. I found something, and I told myself, I'm going to be the best at this that there is. And it was bow hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll remember when we first started bow hunting, we got our bows and we practiced every single day.
Yeah, man.
And got unbelievably good.
Yeah. There's nothing like archery. There's no more spiritual, technical, overall embodiment of challenge itself.
Absolutely.
Than trying to sling a stick at an animal. That's it.
Right.
I said an animal, but you just at a target.
Even the archery itself.
At a target.
Correct.
Trying to hit the smallest point possible every single time.
Correct.
And we did not have great equipment.
No.
We had the hunting equipment of the day, which was not good.
No.
But we honed it. We went. If you take a piece of equipment, this will remember our motorcycles. I had that XR75,
right,
and the steering bearings were out. So I had this camera's off, by the way, but I had to turn the steering wheel like I was going at not quite a 45-degree angle to the left, but sharp, just to go straight, right? But I was jumping off the Honda humps 20 feet in the air just like everybody else until I got on the XR80 that didn't have a steering problem, and then I couldn't even drive the daggone thing.
Right.
So when you take a piece of equipment, even if it's defective, and you perfect it and how to use it, you're golden, man.
Absolutely.
But, what were we talking about before I went off on the motorcycle?
Well, we were talking about shooting.
The archery.
And finding something, and finding a challenge, finding something that you can master.
Yeah.
And going and getting the most out of it that you possibly can. Like I had that Pearson spoiler, that bow.
Yeah.
And it had a 80-pound draw. And I was young and strong, and I could pull 80 pounds, no problem.
And hold it with what would they have, like 50%
Maybe 50%.
I don't think it had 60 for sure.
No. But it didn't even have cams. It had wheels on it.
Wheels,
right, man. So it was a challenge, but man, I got the most out of that equipment that you could ask for.
Right.
And I got to the point where I was doing some unbelievable shots in the woods. I was shooting unbelievable distances and putting deer down. And it was, it was that thing that got me through that. I couldn't play sports anymore, but I can still find things to be good at.
Absolutely, man. And you talk about the outdoors in general. So many hunting shows and things that deal with wounded veterans, with handicapped kids and handicapped people in general, because they're constantly showing you that that's something you can still do.
Right.
And I just told my son yesterday, I think it was, or today, I was talking about him learning music too. But I told him, I said, music, outdoors, hunting, fishing, those are things that we'll always have. And there are challenges, man. You can't perfect them. When you come to bow hunting, there's so much that can go wrong.
Sure.
It's a never-ending pursuit, which it's good to have those kind of things. People need struggle.
Yeah.
You need something that's insurmountable, that you want to keep trying at. Right now, for me in my life, it's Fortnite. Judge me if you will.
Boo.
But I'm about to give up on it because I just ain't getting much better. I can't get any better. But man, it's when you go through dark times like it and you find something
right
that pulls you out of a certain time, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to hang on to that something.
Right.
Because you have not hung on to archery.
Nope.
You have really let go, hunting and even just shooting the bow at all.
I think what happens sometimes is when you get to a certain proficiency and you've done certain things, you can't stay still. There's a saying, I don't know if I can't quote who said it, but basically, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Right.
You cannot sit still in any part of life.
Now, I'm going to sit here and judge you because you didn't even come close to the apex of deer hunting. I mean, not even close. I mean, you was good and all, but
Well, I was good for West Virginia in whatever situation I put myself in.
You could shoot, but as far as the pursuit of mature white-tailed deer, you never got deep into that.
I don't know. I mean,
you killed a couple.
I killed several.
But they wasn't
a bunch.
I'm talking about mature bucks.
I'm just saying deer in general. I killed a bunch
Absolutely,
of deer.
Bunch of deer. But what I mean is you stopped short of going to that. And I'm not talking about trophies. I'm just talking about to the ultimate challenge within the ultimate challenge.
Well, and that's part of my definition or the way I judge things. I was never consumed with the buck hunt and the trophy of that. I was more consumed with the skill set and being proficient and capable.
Yeah, getting close to the animals.
Yeah,
and I feel you.
And being capable. So once I get to the point where I'm capable, I lose some interest in it. So I mean, if you can look back through all of the hobbies, if you want to look through my hobbies, the
ribbon cutting.
Hey, man, the knife making, that whole thing came out of a stressful situation that I was going through, and all of my angst and stress went into making those blades. Yeah. I banged on.
I mean, for those don't know, he's got some videos up on Oglesby. But it's straight blacksmith stuff, man. I mean, it's hardcore.
My grandfather gave me the anvil and some hammers. And
what was the other tool, the thing that gets hot?
Forge.
The forge. Yeah.
So I put everything into that and tried to make the best of that. I think the same thing's going on with photography. There was some stuff that I was involved in that I was the expert, or I was the guy that people go to ask questions about that certain topic. And it got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And physically, I just couldn't keep up and do the things that I was doing. And it causes some depression, and you start trying to find new things.
So it's spawned from the darkness.
So yeah, man. So photography is a super challenge. You cannot master it. I mean, it is something that is very technical, and you have to be spontaneous. You have to have skill set. You have to recognize the environment, and you have to apply principles, and then maybe, if everything turns out right, you get away with a good picture.
But in order to do that or anything else, and I'm somebody who changed my entire life within the last 6 to 7, 8 years. I'm not even the same human.
Sure.
So I started these things late. I guess my point was, there's challenges that you need in life. If you don't take them on yourself and you stay in your comfort zone forever, you won't accomplish anything. And I feel what you're saying about moving on to the next thing and moving on to the next thing. I mean, you've done, sheaths, holsters, reloading, always moving on to something else, and always cutting that next ribbon. But as long as you keep challenging yourself, at least you are, like you said, moving forward.
Right.
And you got to feel for folks that get in the rut of, this is what I do. This is what I like to do.
Right.
I ain't doing nothing else.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in that rut, man. And a lot of them professionally, and feel like they can't get out of it. And that's a hell all of itself.
Right.
But a lot of them just personality wise, you talk about social media, politically, whatever it is, it's like, this is who I am, and that's it.
Right.
There's no room for challenge. There's no room for growth. There's no room to say, you know what? Maybe it's like that instead of the way I thought. Or maybe that they got a point on this side. Or maybe I should start doing a research on my own to get my own answers instead of just being told what to believe and told, what's supposed to happen in my life. So there's a whole realm of challenges.
Yeah.
But personality challenges.
Yeah.
People don't want to take those on. People might want to learn, push themselves to do chin-ups or push themselves to run a marathon. Nobody wants to push themselves to stop being an ass. Just to be a nice person. Nobody wants to push themselves to go out of their way to show some kindness, or better yet, some patience. Just show some patience.
Right.
And that will go miles with people, man. So there are challenges that you can set that you don't have to have big biceps for.
Right.
And you don't have to be able to run.
That's right.
And you don't have to be able to lose weight. You can just start being a better person. You can just start, going out of your way to say something kind to people. That's something here recently that I've been personally going on, is not being kind. I feel like I have been, but going out of my way to make kind conversation.
Sure.
I always kind of talked about Dad, and we laugh about Dad. If you go in a convenience store with Dad, you may as well just find a puzzle book or something to do. Cause read a magazine. He's going to be in there all day. And if you're late going hunting or fishing, it'll drive a kid crazy.
Oh yeah.
So, but you see how people respond to him.
Yeah.
And it makes their day brighter. It really does. And I have gotten older to where I've seen people make my day brighter by doing it.
Sure.
So I have gone out of my way lately just to make a personality adjustment. And I wish more people would kind of do that. Do you feel you've ever done that part? Because you have been, and I'm not talking about different interests. Do you feel, because I have in my life reinvented myself, I know 3 times that I can pinpoint.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've ever really revamped, or do you feel like you've pretty much kept a steady mindset?
I think there's been times that...
Because you mentioned you went through some dark things, and what did you learn from that? Did you come out of that a different person at all?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. I think God showed me many times that there's so much more to people. And I think, patience and empathy and understanding, those things that my mother was so, adept at, and just understanding that most people are trying to do the best that they can do. And sometimes we put these expectations on people that they should behave or act the way that we would, or the way that we were taught to act. And sometimes that's unrealistic for that person to be able to behave that way. But, I think also sometimes it's made me question, what am I going to regret in my life? When I get to the end.
Oh man, hold up. Nobody thinks about that way.
Nobody.
This is a new thought. Everybody regrets things, but very few people think ahead as to what will I regret? What am I going to regret looking back?
Right. And I think people would live their lives in a much different way if they could feel or see that they've missed certain things, or they had opportunities to do certain things, or they had skill in something and they were afraid to pursue it. And, breaking through that kind of stuff and going after a goal, or going after something that maybe you don't know something about a certain topic, and, just throwing yourself at it and learning it. And I was always, as a young boy, fascinated to hear these people in society who spoke 7 different languages, that traveled the world, that was not only did they were like mechanics, but they also had doctorates, and they taught in colleges, and they also did, that amazes me that somebody whose average lifespan is 70 years can have 5 different professions, speak 6 different languages.
Yeah.
They just never stopped. That's the only difference between them and the guy that's sitting in a career waiting on a retirement.
Not a career, a job.
A job, waiting on a retirement so that he can start living.
Yeah. And then you don't know how. And most of the time,
don't want to leave what he's doing.
Right.
Because
Comfort.
that's the purpose in his life. That's the purpose he's set for himself. And, is he going to regret that? Is he going to look back on his life wishing that he would have tried some of these things? Maybe he started playing the guitar at one point and then he gave it up because he didn't feel like, it was important. Or he couldn't set the time aside to do that, or he had to prioritize things. I mean, I don't want to have those regrets, and I try the best that I can to wipe those things away, or at least check the boxes off on being able to do whatever I want to do for myself.
Yeah, but those kind of changes and those kind of things, that's like the hardest thing for people to do, is to actually fulfill fulfill something. Is to actually go do something.
Right.
Thinking about it and talking about it, and we've always brainstormed about different projects and things we want to do, and it's hard to actually get motivated to get them done.
Sure.
So my next subject gets us to something that you and I have battled our whole lives. More me for the majority of our lives, but it's been a struggle for both of us, and that's weight and weight loss and diet.
Yeah, man.
And the stage was set, and God bless them, God love them. Our parents didn't know nothing about nutrition, and our grandparents knew less because the food wasn't bad yet.
Right.
There wasn't the carbs and the bread and the this and that. It wasn't like that when they grew up. So when the government and everybody told them that they could feed kids Fruit Loops every morning, they didn't know. And,
Right.
They thought they was making me happy with a fudge round and a this and that. You know, my old joke, here, baby, I've scraped my knee. My grandma said, put a fudge round on it, baby.
Right.
So they didn't understand. So I cannot put blame on them, nor can I put blame on myself. Because even by the time I was old enough to have some personal responsibility, the addiction was set. The habits were blown. It was a spiral to where I got to 420 pounds, man.
Yeah.
And I lost 180 pounds, for those that don't know. And the reason I did, I cured type 2 diabetes. I cured hypertension, high cholesterol. All these levels came down and got in check. And there's a lot of different inspirations. A lot of YouTube people I've watched, this, that, and the other. But the main person in the world that saved my life from that stuff is sitting across from me right now. Several times. You got me. I remember one time, I'll make us both cry. You sent me a couple $100 when I lived in Nashville.
Yeah.
And said, hey man, I know it's hard. Use this money, join a gym, do whatever whatever.
Right.
That was an attempt, right?
Yeah.
I remember you and Veed, our uncle. I overheard y'all talking about having an intervention with me because you were worried I was going to die before I was 40. I mean,
Right.
It was that bad. Then you got me on the juicing and kale shakes. And
Right.
with doing that, I lost 90 pounds,
Right.
Turns out that may not be the healthiest diet, but it worked.
Yeah.
And then as most recently, you got me into keto diet and ratcheting down to 23-hour fasting. And, I went like 7-8 months of 23-hour fasting with only water.
Yep.
This last time.
Yeah.
And that dropped the other 90 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm still battling, and I fall off the wagon. I get back on. Right now I've been doing pretty good. But it's a constant struggle. And you, talking about when you were in high school and college, you were very thin because we were both big when we were kids. Then you got very thin through high school, at least, compared to anything we've done.
Yeah, I burned a lot of calories as an athlete.
Right.
I went from one sport to another sport to another sport, and I burned a lot of calories. I wasn't eating good. I wasn't eating super healthy. It was just that I was so active. I was burning it off, and I was young.
Yeah.
And, that counts for something too.
Right. So it really helped. And I remember when you really lost weight, you weren't eating lunch, you weren't,
Right.
You were selling your lunch
Well,
and saved up money for a deer rifle.
I sold my lunch so I could buy my first deer rifle.
8th grade?
I was in 8th grade. Yeah.
And this is no joke, people. He sold his lunch for a few dollars a day.
Yeah.
And saved that money and bought a
Yeah.
30-ounce six.
Yeah, and during that time,
Lost a ton of weight playing basketball.
I was on the JV and the varsity team, so I had 2 practice. I double practiced every day, and I got super thin, and I stayed in shape my whole high school career, and actually weighed less when I graduated high school than what I weighed when I graduated 6th grade.
Yeah, definitely, dude. That's what I'm saying. I got down last year lower than I have ever been since like 7th grade.
Right.
We were huge. I was enormous all the way through school. And I was really, jealous and envious. I wanted to be thin like you and all that. And it was really hard on me. And I've done a lot of self-evaluation and how that sculpted what I do today, as far as, me being big in school, deflecting that with humor,
Right.
being artistic, all these things to deflect the attention from my obvious being the elephant in the room.
Sure.
So, and it's really cool not to be, big anymore. Big, at least. I'm still a big guy, but not like that.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm getting to is you have gone up and down.
Yeah.
You've gone up higher than you are now, but you've certainly been a lot lower.
Oh, yeah.
Explain to me why, because I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Why, as intelligent as we are, do we continue to do things directly that we know is killing us? Why do we do it? And I understand addiction as well as anybody as far as food addiction. I ain't
Sure.
no drug. I'm talking about food addiction. And if you think it's not an addiction, just turn this off and don't listen, because I can't even talk to you if you've never felt this.
Right.
But it's an absolute addiction.
It is.
But we've broken it many times.
Yeah.
But it always comes back. Explain that to me.
Well, I really can't explain it very clearly. I think, when I first started the keto, and just to give some background, I was fit, and I always, was lifting weights, and I had this thing that was a goal of mine, that I was going to be a competitive bodybuilder back before I realized that you really couldn't do it very efficiently without taking drugs. Right. Then once I realized you couldn't do that, that kind of blew it for me. But I still enjoyed lifting weights, and there was a time where I lost 45 pounds eating low fat, eating a carbohydrate-based diet. Yeah. I've done that several times. And then I couldn't hold on to that diet, or something would happen in my life, moving around or whatever, and whatever reason, I stopped doing it, and I gained weight back. And then, just a few years ago, I found the keto, and basically it was out of desperation. I was about to have a shoulder surgery and a knee surgery, and I needed to find some way that I could lose weight and not have to exercise as hard as I used to, because I just flat couldn't exercise. Right. So I found the keto, and just like every other aspect, that we've talked about so far, it's become this passion of mine to master and to understand, the seeking of knowledge. Knowledge is power, and I hope that I'll always have a desire to learn new things. And I'm not a doctor, and I don't profess to know everything about physiology, but I spent a year educating myself. I spent a year reading studies and understanding why keto, or the ketosis diet, works, and how our bodies function, and why we get fat in the first place, and what hormones, why these hormones have such a draw on us. And and
we don't have to go too deep into keto. If anybody don't know what keto is, it's easy to look up. But my thing is, given all that, you spent all that time.
I did.
We have mastered it. We have. I spent 8 months eating once a day, and many times fasting for 48 and 72 hours with no problem.
I did, and it's dangerous. I tell you, this is the
keep going back.
The reason that I went back the first time, the reason it was because I felt so empowered, and I had never felt like that before in my life. For the first time in my life, I could walk into a store and know exactly what to buy. And it was such a powerful feeling, man. I felt,
I've been there. I know it.
So powerful that I could, at any time I wanted to, I could turn it around on a dime. Yep. I could change everything. At one point, I was losing weight so fast, I was kind of had anxiety about how I'm going to stop losing weight, because I was back down to my high school weight.
I remember,
I was.
This was just 3 years ago, 4 years ago,
3 years.
3 years ago.
I was like, how am I going to stop losing weight? It was effortless. It was just falling off of me, and I wasn't really working out very much. Maybe 2 times a week, once or twice a week, and I think that power corrupted my brain.
Get comfortable.
I got to the point where I knew that even if I ate a cupcake, I knew how to fix it. Yep. If I ate a piece of pizza, I knew how to fix it, and I could fix it immediately.
But then you stop fixing it.
You stop fixing it.
Man, the same thing has happened to me so many times.
Once you try it, once you start eating carbohydrates again, and you start eating sugar again, it is an addictive.
Man, the aliens
substance.
in your gut biome, man, they drive you.
Right.
I mean, they talk you into driving the sheets in the morning, 2 in the morning, get a candy bar.
Yeah, and you know better. You know you
can't talk
you
yourself
know you
out.
can't keep doing that and be successful in your weight loss goals, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful force, and it takes a very strong will to get through that first 4 days. If you can make it through 4 days, usually for me it's 4 days.
Yeah.
If I can get through 4 days of eating clean.
Right. And we're talking, for those that don't know, no sugar, no bread. And for me, when I'm hardcore, I'm almost zero carbs.
Yeah, I do. I go pretty much zero carbohydrates.
And I'm good right now, man. I have lost 34 pounds since December 22nd. So I've been doing good, and I've fallen off a few times. I mean, several times, honestly. But again, I know how to fix it.
Right.
So, it takes me, if I eat bad for 3 days and I gain 8 to 9 pounds,
right,
I can drop that in 2 days if I really go for it.
I December 27th, I decided to start back and be strict, and I was super strict. And in 13 days, I lost 30 pounds.
Right.
And I didn't work out.
And folks,
no exercise.
Anybody worried that's not healthy, man? Most of that is inflammation.
It's inflammation
and fluid and things that your body is suffering. And when you lose that, anybody knows that goes on any kind of diet for a couple weeks and your face starts looking thinner and maybe your blood pressure goes down a little, you start feeling great.
Yeah.
So you drop, you drop 20, 30 pounds. That's because you had that much inflammation in your body.
I was hurting really badly. My joints were hurting badly.
Right.
Imagine
how much does a milk jug of water weigh? A gallon of water. I don't know what that weighs. But you talk about 30 pounds.
About a pound for 8 fluid ounces. So.
30 pounds of fluid and swelling in your body, man. You feel like crap.
Yeah.
And you get rid of that, man. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
So, the question is, why are we so daggone weak that we always fall off?
I think human nature is that
it's because it's in your face. That's why you got to get rid of the stuff. Man.
We seek thrill. Period. I think God made us that way to adventure and to.
We like to feel good.
We like to do things that make us feel free.
Yeah.
And I think that limiting yourself to certain foods is basically similar to putting yourself in a box or putting yourself behind some kind of barrier.
Yeah.
And the other side always looks greener. and you cannot convince yourself that, well, just stay on this side, life will be a whole lot better. Yeah. It will.
Break on through to the other side. Next thing you know, you got a bag of chocolate chips and a spoonful of peanut butter.
And you're down in your back.
Right.
Yeah.
You
got brain fog and you're falling asleep at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Oh, it's a mess, man.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to like even try to establish any good habits with kids.
Yeah.
They're so bombarded with poison. It depresses me. I feel like I may be letting my kid down, and I don't know what to do. It's like I had him all summer. He lost 19 pounds. This is a 10-year-old.
He looked great.
He lost 19 pounds, felt great. We'd riding bikes and running and playing every day. And then he gets back in school, eating breakfast and lunch every day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's bigger than he was. So.
Well, I think the only thing you can do is show and, anybody that's done this diet or been successful for any amount of time and feels the difference. I mean, if you're truly suffering, if you have a girl that works with me, she's has rheumatoid arthritis, horribly rheumatoid arthritis, takes medication and stuff. I introduced her to this diet. and she has decreased her rheumatoid arthritis medication exponentially, almost to the point where she doesn't have to take it anymore.
Man,
she's lost like 25 pounds, and she hadn't worked out. I mean, her husband started doing it, and he's lost 40 pounds.
yeah.
Just in the last 2 months.
I really try to urge people, man, even when they say they got a laundry list of reasons why it won't work for them, right? It's like, I can't eat this, or I can't do that, or my doc says my cholesterol is high, so I can't eat meat. And well, that's not the case anymore. That's not even science.
It's not science. It's been debunked.
It's so hard to get people to understand that they've been lied to.
Well,
about food, but they're willing to accept they've been lied to about everything else.
Right. It goes back to what I said earlier. People are just doing the best that they can with what they got, and a lot of doctors, they're people.
Bad information.
They get bad information. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of studies that have come to light in the last 4 years about carbohydrates and about heart disease and about what actually causes it. But we've known since 1920s and 30s that insulin makes you fat.
That's it. That's the hormone.
We've known that.
Yeah.
So why are people still?
They lied to us, and people don't do their own research. They don't want to know, and it tastes good to eat Fruit Loops, man. It just tastes good. So people, they take the easy way out, the comfortable way out most of the time.
Sure.
Most of the time.
Sure.
So here we are getting poisoned. But anyway, man, let's talk about something fun.
Yeah.
You watched the documentary the other day.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, listen, folks.
Oh, my goodness.
Folks, Mike, he come to me today, we was riding today, and he helped me out today. I had to get my car to the shop, so he gave me a ride. And he said, man, have you heard about this group of people? And I didn't know what he was going to come with. He started, I could tell it was a movement, a popular movement he was going to talk about. I wasn't quite sure what it was. And I jokingly said, what are you talking about, the flat earthers? And daggone if that wasn't it. He couldn't wait to tell me about the flat earthers. Because you watched the documentary. What's the name of the documentary?
Oh, it was on Netflix. It was
Behind the Curve? Beyond.
No, it was Behind the Curve. I think
Behind the Curve or Beyond the Curve. Behind the Curve. Okay.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And tell me, first of all, neither one of us is buying this.
Right.
But I might play devil's advocate just for fun.
Well, play devil's advocate.
All right, so what did the documentary say?
Well, there's a group of folks out there that started a movement, and one of them supposedly used to work for NASA, and basically they believe that scientists have been lying to everyone about the Earth being round, and they believe that the Earth is a flat disc-shaped object that is in the universe, and the sun and the moon are basically lights that are in the sky, but the Earth doesn't orbit the sun, and the moon doesn't orbit the Earth. And they believe that it's a big hoax that's been perpetuated upon all of us that the Earth is round.
Now, when he told me, I knew it was coming because I've been hearing about this for a while. Now, let me ask you, you watched some of the documentary. I don't know if you've done any research on this. How do they say that the sun comes up and goes down every day?
They did not say that.
Do they think it rotates circularly?
Correct. They think it
above a flat plane?
Correct.
Okay. Same with the moon. And so when it's nighttime, the sun is way over to the east or wherever.
Correct.
And then it comes around our side.
Correct.
Okay. They also totally deny the curvature of the Earth. They feel like there's a wall.
Correct. To
where the governments of the world won't let you go any further to actually explore it.
Yes.
Now, one thing I could never get out of what I heard about them and watched the videos and stuff is now at one point we believed as humans that the earth was flat.
Correct.
Before Columbus Day or whatever. I don't know if he's the one that disproved, somebody else probably disproved it.
Sure.
But he didn't die, he didn't fall off the edge.
Right.
And he came back. That was the big part.
Right.
Finding the Indies, America, whatever.
Right.
That was no accomplishment. Coming back.
Getting back. Right.
That was huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm giving credit for that.
Sure.
He didn't find nothing, discover, but he got back.
Right.
But so when he disproved that the earth was not, there was no drop off there.
Right.
So people started developing more of a concept of a globe, right?
Yeah.
Why do they think they did that? That's what I was getting to, is I can never get out of this. Why they think the government wants you to believe that.
Some of them have different points of view. They believe that that some of them want you, or some of them believe that scientists and governments.
Some of them surely believe in Bigfoot.
Well, they believe that governments want to keep people ignorant and keep people in the dark about things. And one person went so far as to say that the governments they just want to keep people under control.
But how does that do that? How does a globe do it? Because do they feel like that it makes you as a human on this place seem like you're farther away from everybody else? That you're separated more?
No.
Because it still takes you the same amount of time to get places, whether it's flat around. So I don't know. I've never gotten out of them what the motive is.
I think they don't believe, they don't want to believe in space or in any terrestrial bodies. They don't want to believe.
Well, I get not trusting the government. I get that, and I love some conspiracy theories. It's romantic, but you take one like the moon landing. There are motives that you can attach to the moon landing. Motives,
right?
I don't see a motive to telling people the Earth is round versus flat. I don't. I just really don't see the motive for what do they gain by that.
Right. I don't know.
I've never gotten that answer out of it, man.
The documentary was very long, probably a little longer than it should be. They kept reiterating the same.
Credits were longer than it should be.
The same credits. They just kept reiterating the same things over and over.
So let's explore this a little bit more.
Yeah.
What would it mean if it were true? If the Earth was flat? Because, playing devil's advocate, I love this one. Right. They say if the Earth was round, the water would fall off. That's what they say. Gravity in the water would fall off.
Correct.
So they think it's flat. The water is held down. Right? So let's explore.
And they look on the horizon in the documentary. They're sitting on one side of the bay, and they can look across and they see the land, but everything looks flat to their eye.
Right.
So that's the other justification. And they say that the scientists only throw math at you, and they actually are looking at physical evidence that the world is flat.
And they totally discredit any photography from outer space as hoax.
Absolutely.
Right.
100% hoax. One picture was taken that they showed was the Hubble telescope. And one of the guys commented, I guess this is the Hubble taking a picture of the Hubble as it goes around the Earth or whatever. Yeah.
Man, what is it about this one that makes anybody want to grab onto it?
I honestly, I really believe
people just really don't want to trust.
There's that element that people don't want to trust the government, and they. But I think deeper than that, a lot of folks spiritually are looking for something to grab onto, and they've not grabbed onto church or religion or something, and there's a group of folks out there that have found something that they have in common with other people. That was a pretty predominant theme in the documentary, was they were all together and they had a convention and all of them came to one central location, and they could be themselves around each other.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, this has kind of been exposed as like they started this as a joke, but it caught enough people's attention that now it's a movement.
Right.
I mean, and they know the people, but they don't believe it. If you tell the people who do believe it that it started as a joke, they think that's part of the cover-up.
That's part of the cover-up.
There's no convincing. There's no way to prove that somebody's not lying.
Right.
Well, I mean, there is, honestly.
Well,
you take a weather balloon and go up.
I proved it the other day
with a drone.
With the drone.
Right. Tell us how you did that.
Okay.
What's the science behind that?
Yeah, so the other day, I was out flying a drone, taking a photograph of the Kanawha River, and the sun was setting.
Oglesby Photography, by the way. You can see
Oglesby
that.
Photography, plug. The sun was setting, and so I missed sunset, basically. Didn't get a picture of the sun. So all I did was increase the altitude on my drone as it was facing the sunset. And as it gained altitude, the sun rose in the west.
Oh.
So the sun came back up above the horizon, basically.
So either it's round or you're time traveling.
Or we're time traveling.
That's exactly what that means.
So basically, what happened was the sun went beyond the curvature of the earth. I raised the drone high enough in altitude to where it could see the sun again over top of the curvature of the earth. So the sun rose in the west.
But now I wonder how they would dispute that, man. I mean, because you can't.
That's pretty.
That's visual evidence.
Visual evidence.
But they would dispute that.
They would, and I would love to hear someone dispute that. I'd love to let them do it.
Right.
To show it to them. I don't know. You know, one of the parts of the documentary was kind of, you know, it kind of let everybody down. Was they had a laser and they were shooting a laser across the desert, across this town,
right.
And the laser, it was not a terrible idea to try to use a laser and level and try to hit marks on a billboard.
But the curvature within even several miles is so slight.
It's slight, and it was so slight, and that's what was wrong with their experiment. The actual beam coming out of the laser got to be so big that they couldn't measure.
By the time it got to the target,
it was to the target.
Right.
It covered the entire target and
right.
beyond it. So they couldn't even measure, where the laser was supposed to be.
I mean, I guess at least this one can only last so long because commercial space flight's coming. Right. Elon Musk, and so
right.
You better get your money out of this one quick.
Well, and they are so determined that this is something that they have taken ownership of. That there is no
man, and then some of them, and then you got guys probably like the ones that made the video. They don't believe that crap. Right. Just like a bunch of evangelists. Maybe they believe it, maybe they don't, but they're making money.
Right, and the guy I could sense that in the video when I started watching the documentary.
Yeah,
because he had talked about how he had been this student of all these conspiracy theories. So he's a student of conspiracy theories. He had a bookshelf of all these conspiracy theories, and then this was the last one. He's like, this is the last one that was on the shelf, and he picked it up and he started trying to debunk it, trying to prove that it wasn't so, and he couldn't prove that it wasn't so. So because he proved that he couldn't prove that it wasn't true, then it was automatically true at that point.
Wow, man. So he just shuffled through till he found one.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. But it goes, like we said, it just shows, one, how gullible people are, and two, how much they absolutely distrust anything being told to them by the government, unless they say it's okay to drink orange juice in the morning. They're okay with that one. They're like, oh, yeah, they said we could have orange juice in the morning. No, you can't.
Yeah, human beings, I think, naturally want to gravitate to and They have a natural desire to belong to a society or belong to a group. And, one of the things that I'm very interested in is communication.
Yeah.
And one of the models of communication, one of the theories of communication is called reflective communication. And it's basically what it means is that we develop our self-worth and who we are as a person based upon how we are reflected from other people and how they see us and how we fit in. So if somebody that you admire and you're trying to belong to this group of people, and if you don't reflect the same value system, if you don't reflect the same interests as that group, then you can see that in that group, the way that they treat you, and you conform or you go on down the road.
Right.
And it's pretty phenomenal. You can see it in many aspects of life.
So basically, you're saying other people's perception is your mirror. It's
Correct.
like you looking in the mirror at what other people think of you.
Correct.
And if you don't like what you see, or if you're not being accepted, then you go and you find somebody who has a more pleasing image to cast back.
Right. Or you change yourself.
Okay.
You change so that you fit in. Everybody has.
Not so much to fit in as much as it is maybe
to gain acceptance.
Find me as much. Oh well, yeah. I mean, everybody's done that. Sure, absolutely. But that, I don't understand why this one. That's just funny to me. But let's move on, man. This has been a good time.
Sure.
I don't even know how long we've been going, but surely it's nice long. But we're going to have to do a series of these.
15 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody who's listened to any part of this. For those who listen to the whole thing, man, thank you so much. Anything you want to plug before we go? Again, Oglesby Photography, but anything else?
Yeah, no, the Oglesby Photography, the Facebook page, it's called facebook.com/Oglesby Photography Shop. Nice. Is the actual address, the URL.
Okay.
And my Instagram is Oglesby _photography.
Nice.
On Instagram.
Well, cool.
No, the only other things, that I'm interested in, I've taken a strong passion for videography, cinematography.
Absolutely.
I think that's the next level of storytelling. In my way.
Well, for folks out there, we're going to do some projects together coming up. We're going to work on some music videos. We're going to work on more podcasts. We're going to do some short films. We just met and started working with these great folks over at Over Easy Entertainment. So we're going to have some stuff coming out to where we can express ourselves all over these people.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's
so be on the lookout, man. And again, with me, Creek Don't Rise, the band is my biggest outset. So please follow along. Creek Don't Rise Band on Facebook. You can find, I just booked a comedy show. I'll be doing another comedy show here in June. My good buddy BT will be going to that one with me, and I'll give you more detail on that as we get closer. But this weekend, man, like tomorrow night, you can catch me, Marcus. I will be at Songwriter Stage at Fireside Lounge above Little India in Charleston. We start at 7 o'clock and be a songwriter, just a listening room. So come on out if you want to hear stories behind the songs and how the meaning they were to the actual writers themselves, including me. So come on out to that. Friday night, the whole band will be at Steiner's Speakeasy up in Chillicothe, Ohio. And then on Saturday, the duo version, which is me and Jerry Lee Brooks, will be at Hocking Hills Winery up in Hocking Hills, Ohio. So plenty of chances to catch us. Like I said, we do several next week. We got another show in Chillicothe. We got a private benefit coming up on the 15th to help out the family there. So thank you guys so much for being part of it. I really want to see this podcast take off. If you guys enjoy this, please share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channels, and just help us keep going to create more content, man. Thank you guys so much. This is Riding with Marcus. Come on back now.